This video will be addressing ways to solve word problems in a step-by-step fashion that will hopefully help you in this class. The Math 104, technical math or math for the trades, is a class that will be have more of an emphasis on word problems, maybe than Math 105, depending on the instructor. The reason is because this is an applied mathematics course, and one of the things that we really want to focus on is the relevance of how math is used in the workforce and for jobs that you may have or that you might be looking into. And so we really want to make sure to address early on ways to be able to solve word problems, because sometimes some people struggle a little bit with word problems. It has just a lot of different reasons. Oftentimes it's because we weren't taught as young people in elementary, middle, or high school, or all the above, on how to do word problems. Oftentimes teachers didn't like them and they just kind of skipped right over them. But we're going to address this in this class, and I'll show you some problem-solving strategies to work with word problems as adults. And these are very important skills to have as we go into different jobs, whether it's in carpentry or in nursing or in just many different jobs that you have, because we're given problems that we need to solve, and math is around us all the time. So one of the things I want to refer to is going to be a different video that is in this series, and you can go back and forth between them. It's going to introduce words that you can use to solve word problems. So I oftentimes think of solving word problems as interpreting a different language. And so the other video with this list of words will help you with that interpretation. So this video is going to focus on the actual step-by-step problem-solving strategy for word problems. So without reading this to you, just because you can read it, what I'd like you to do is be able to think about having a word problem in front of you and how you would address it. The first thing that you want to do is that you want to actually read the problem through one time. You want to not think of it as what are the numbers I'm going to have to get, what am I going to have to solve, but just read it as a setup to a question, setup as a problem, and what are they asking you for. Then go back and reread the problem again. And you might have to do this 2 or 3 times, maybe even more if it's a long word problem, to really try to get the gist and understanding of what it is that they're looking for in the problem. What is it that they are trying to get you to understand? And then at that point, after you've read it a couple times, then actually start to write down the information that you are given. This is factual information. Think of it as a courtroom. What is it that you are being given? What are the facts that you have? And oftentimes this is where it starts to go awry because people either don't write it down, they think, oh, I'll be able to figure this out in my head, or they write down what they think is there and not the actual facts of what are there. And so make sure that what you write down is coming from the problem itself. If you get a chance, draw a picture. If it is a word problem talking about a height of a flagpole and the shadow that it casts, even if it's just a stick flagpole and a little stick out there that looks like a shadow, that's going to help you solve that problem for what it is that they're asking. Not all problems necessarily make it to where you can draw pictures, but if you can, then go ahead and try to do that. figure out what you don't know, and that might just be what they're looking for in the problem. So that's referred to as a variable, for when it's an unknown variable, for when they're asking you for something and you say, gosh, I don't know what the acceleration is. Well, acceleration might just be X or Y or whatever you identify it as, that they're looking for. They might give you all the other factors of the problem to be able to solve it except for acceleration, and that's going to be your variable that you can write down. Write down all of the relationships then when you get an opportunity to. So if you know that they are looking for a distance equals rate time problem, and you know that the formula is distance equals rate times time, actually write that down. Write that formula down. Write down what you know in that, because if it is distance and you can say, they say what the distance is that the racer went in the problem, and they tell you how long it took the racer to be able to get from point A to point B, so you know the time, but they don't tell you how fast he went, the speed. That just might be your variable. You might want to call that R, and then you can solve for that, because now you have the distance equals R, and you know the time. So write down what you know, write down the actual equation first, and use the substitution method to fill those coefficient values in. Now that we're to that point, now you get to evaluate. So this is actually the problem where you're going to solve the problem. You've had a whole lot of steps, you've had a whole lot of time to think about it. Now's when you're going to solve the problem. Hopefully you weren't trying to do that all the way back up at step number 2 or step number 3, because remember, up there you're still trying to analyze and get what the information is there, because if you jump right to trying to solve the problems, oftentimes that's where we lead ourselves astray. So evaluate, solve the problem, and once you think that you have the answer, go back and check it. Check it for accuracy, number 1. Does it make sense of what your value is? If they're talking about the speed of a runner in a race, and you come up with 283 miles an hour, you might want to go back and double check your math on that one. Also, go back and look and see where is the question mark and what exactly was it that they were asking for. So if they're asking for how long it takes for Bob to get to work, if they're asking for the time that Bob makes it to work, see, reading is very important, and you answer it of how long it took him to get to work, those are 2 different answers to 2 different questions. So make sure you're answering the question that they're looking for, and make sure that it makes sense, and go back also, and if you get a chance, plug it back into your equation. Make sure that everything balances out and that it is the correct answer.